Back when I was 18, my friends and I decided to go on a trip to some rural area to relax on our own for a couple of days. Luckily, my late grandparents owned a medium-sized house in a remote village. There are plenty of those where I come from. So I got the keys from my dad, and we packed food, water, and a first aid kit and headed out there. It was a 2-hour ride from the closest city to get there. The car dropped us off in the middle of nowhere and told us to walk in a straight line until we got to the village. After about 30 minutes of walking, we reached our destination, and it was nothing fancy. Just a village that was definitely bigger than expected, though. There were dogs, chickens, and goats roaming around freely. I was a city boy, so that sight was a first for me. We got to my grandparents' house and settled in. We spent the first day resting and decided to go to a spot that my father told me about in the morning. We headed out that way at daybreak. We packed plenty of water. The spot was close by, so we didn't think to pack any food, though. After about a 30-minute walk in the middle of a heavy wooded mountain, we finally got to our destination. It was a beautiful area. There were these huge trees, an amazing view. One tree was exceptionally large, and I admired it for a while. But still, it wasn't enough for the 5 young idiots who came there to explore, so we kept moving forward, just looking around and having fun. But without realizing it, we'd spent an extra hour and a half up there. We were exhausted, and more importantly, hungry, so we decided to head back. We followed the trail back, but we never reached that gigantic tree, even after an hour of fast walking. We began to panic and went from walking fast to jogging, but for some reason, even though we should have been backtracking, we didn't make it to the tree. We were officially lost. And that's when we spotted an old lady walking the trail. We quickly approached her and said hello, and asked how close to the village we were. She looked at us weirdly and told us we were walking the opposite way, and the village was like a 3-hour walk in the opposite direction. This was bad news for us. We were already exhausted by that point. 3 of us could barely stand, let alone walk for another 3 hours. We explained to the old woman about our situation. She offered us a place to rest, as her place was close by, and she also offered us a meal. That way we could get some energy for our walk home. I didn't think that it was a good idea to follow a stranger, even though we were in a rough situation, and one of my friends, Adam, protested along with me. But between the hunger and the state of the others, we gave in and agreed to follow the woman. We followed her towards her cabin. It was small with a tiny garden in front of it, and a goat tied to a post next to the door. Overall, it was nothing out of the ordinary in these parts of the country. We went in and sat down on these long sofas with no back support. She told us to wait while she got out some food. The cabin was very clean. The tables, chairs, and sofa were obviously old and worn out, but not dusty, and overall, the place looked very welcoming. However, Adam and I didn't fully drop our guard, while the others were simply happy that they had something to sit on. 15 minutes later, she came out from the kitchen with 2 big plates of chicken and vegetables, a plate of salad, and some olive oil. She poured us tea, and we dug in as she went back to the kitchen to prepare more. I was considering not eating, but my hunger took over me, and I went right in as soon as the plates hit the table, just like our other friends. Except Adam. He didn't lay one single finger on the food, nor the tea, and he was very paranoid. But he was also the most in shape of all of us, so he managed to hold back on his hunger. The old lady ended up bringing 2 more plates of food out that we cleaned up. She brought more tea and told us to rest and digest the food and leave whenever we felt like it. She then excused herself and went to her room to sleep, as she was tired from cooking. We drifted off to sleep one by one, and I set up an alarm to ring in 30 minutes so we could move on. I was the last one to actually drift off to sleep and was talking to Adam before I did. He said he was going to stay awake and just keep an eye on us for a bit before we got moving. The next thing I knew, I was being shaken awake by my friends, who all looked very worried. I snapped awake when I saw their faces and looked around, asking them what was going on. One of them pointed to the window and told me to look outside. I didn't get it at first, but then I noticed. It was sunrise. I almost had a heart attack. I thought we overslept for a whole day, but it was worse. Adam was nowhere to be found. We went out of the cabin and called, but there was no answer, so we went back in to ask the old lady if she had seen him. I knocked on the door to the room, but I didn't get a response. I checked the door and realized it wasn't locked, so I decided to excuse myself in, and when I did, it was the first time since I went on this trip that I was in full panic mode. There was no bed in that room. In fact, there was nothing. Like nothing at all. Just 4 walls and a door. We went into the kitchen and it was the same way as well. How the hell could she have cooked all of that food if there wasn't even a refrigerator or a stove? I ran to my phone to try to call Adam. The signal there was weak. I knew that from the last time I checked my phone, but when I grabbed it, it was off. Dead battery. I know it was around 70% when I went to sleep. All of our phones were dead, actually. So we got out of the house and started running on the trail towards the village while calling Adam's name over and over. After a while, we met some people from the village, and they were actually my grandparents' neighbors. They looked almost scared when they saw us. Then they dropped this bomb on us all. Where were you these past 3 days? I looked at them in shock, and then they elaborated for me. All of us were missing for 3 days. My parents were freaking out because I didn't answer the phone. They called everybody, including these neighbors, to ask if they'd seen me or any of my friends. They even reported us all missing. The whole village was looking for us for 2 days. We asked for help finding Adam, but after we told them what happened, they took us to the local mosque, and the imam could look into it for us. They believed it was witchcraft. We went back there the next day with some men from the village looking for Adam. We showed them the cabin and its surroundings. We looked for hours on end, but there was no sign of him anywhere. We gave up when the police took over, but even they couldn't find much. To this day, I still wonder what happened. I am religious, but I can't accept that this woman was a witch. Even if she was, why only Adam? Why did he disappear? Why not all of us? Was it because he didn't eat any of the food? Or because he went snooping around the cabin? Part of me wants to go back there so I can uncover the truth, but every time I think about this incident, I get this crippling fear of that damn cabin, and I can't force myself to go back. Adam is still missing. Nobody knows what happened to him. His body was never found in those woods. We have no answers for his family. There's no trace that he was ever out there. Neither him nor that witch were ever seen again.